Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Westchester Talk Radio, produced by Shark Creative and made possible by Entergy Indian Point Energy Center, where they've been serving the community and will continue to serve the community right through April of 2021. Also, our friends over at Lapolis Electric, where you're never left in the dark. They're doing a great job offering a 24-hour emergency service and are truly on top of the COVID-19 pandemic with taking all precautions needed to provide a safe and healthy environment. Check out their podcast series called Livewire, produced by Shark Creative, and can be found on demand at lapoliselectric.com. Today, again, this is Isolation Therapy 29. We have JD Summa, the CEO of Kings Capital Construction, construction management, commercial general contracting, and site development. He's also the president of Real Estate Acquisitions and Commercial Construction Division. Kings Capital is a full-service general contracting firm that specializes in site work and commercial construction. They were named the Inc. 5000 as one of the fastest-growing privately held companies in the country, I think for 4 years in a row. JD might correct me on that, but I know it's at least 4 years. He's also a rising star from the class of 2013 and a very active member with the BCW. And as a result of those things, I've had the pleasure of getting to know you, JD, and I welcome you to our show. Thanks for taking a little time. I wanted to ask you, as we get warmed up here, how you're doing during the whole quarantine, and if there's anything that you're doing specifically to help the community. If you want to share that with our listeners, I think that would be fortuitous.
Thank you, Andrew. Pleasure to be here. So the quarantine is obviously, it's been difficult on everybody. Fortunately, we weren't in full quarantine mode because we had some projects that were still considered essential. So we kind of worked through this, although at a lesser capacity and in a different way. A lot of our office staff was working from home, but it did allow us to consolidate a little bit on the business end, and we were able to hire some people actually that were let go from other companies. So there was opportunity for us, being that we were still working, to put some people back to work, and found some talent, people that we actually were looking for quite some time. And from a community standpoint, we're trying to do our part, just like most people. We actually, this coming Friday, have a food delivery coming into White Plains. We have 35,000 pounds of produce that are going to be delivered to Eberswall Ice Rink. I'm working with the Youth Bureau of White Plains, Frank Williams. I believe Mayor Roach is going to be there. But, that's a blessing. So we're going to have, as I said, 35,000 pounds of food. And the question, when I offered this to White Plains, what are we going to do with all that food? They didn't know where they could store it. So they were able to figure that out. So that's good. We're going to have that delivery on Friday.
Well, JD, I've known you for a while. It doesn't surprise me one bit that you would be reaching out to the community in that way. And that's amazing that you're able to get all that together. In a short time, I've seen you help us with feeding Westchester over the years, with dropping off food when we do a food drive. I have this banner up behind me that I know will be prominently displayed somewhere throughout the county, that you're thanking the frontline healthcare heroes, Kings Capital, that is, thanking them. JD, that's very admirable of you, and I know you're a humble guy, so you'll take that for what it's worth. But what is it about you? What brings you to the point of always wanting to reach out and helping? What drives you to do that? I'm curious.
It's a good question. We all have humble beginnings, right? Or most of us anyway. And I certainly came from a humble beginning. So now that I'm in a position and we have the opportunity to be able to give back, it's important to me, especially with the kids. That's a focal point for me. And this White Plains Youth Bureau, obviously, that's for the kids of White Plains. I'm on the board of directors there. It starts with the kids for me, making sure, kids know that they have somewhere to go. They have other avenues in life, before they get in trouble or, life in general takes them down the wrong path. We all have adversity to meet and conquer. So for me, that's what's important. I just try to be there for the kids and do what we can now that I'm in a position that I can.
Well, they're certainly lucky to have you, and we are lucky to have you as a community. So continue those great efforts that you're doing, and it makes a difference. It really does. Every little bit helps, and certainly part of this whole isolation therapy series, we're trying to find all the silver linings that we can, and putting a spotlight on the folks that are going a little above and beyond, and you certainly have been doing that. During the quarantine, JD, what have you had to do differently with the company? I know you touched on some of it already, but what else have you had to do with Capital Construction?
Well, I mean, everybody had to pivot a little bit, right? So we had to focus on safety more so than we had. Making sure everybody had a sense of security. They were safe on the jobs that we were working on. But something I guess worth mentioning, because everybody was working from home, we try to keep, we have a culture here that this is really like, family oriented type company, right? And we want you to enjoy coming to work, spend more time with your coworkers than you do most people. So a lot of our employees were missing that interaction. So we started a challenge, and we have about 50 people in the company. And also we put it out to, some close vendors and other contractors that we work with. There ended up being about 60 people that started this challenge, and 4 people finished it. So it was a mental toughness challenge with a focus on health and exercise, food as well. But it was difficult, working out 2 times a day, drinking a gallon of water, no alcohol, which is a tough one for a lot of us. Things along that nature, but also reading, 10 pages a day. There was a list of things, but it brought everybody together. So we were talking all the time, constantly about that, encouraging each other. And it took people's mind and focus off of the constant news and negativity that was surrounding. And we tried to put a positive spin on things and, get people excited about something and be able to talk about something different than COVID-19.
Yeah, and that's very important. I think, right now we do try to find other things that make us happy and improve our lives. And you kind of took the words out of my mouth. I was going to ask you what else you've done to improve yourself during this period. Sounds like you've done a few things already. Anything else you want to add about what you might have learned about yourself through this process, as well as the other the benefits that you may have gotten from doing slight improvements?
As far as that challenge goes, I was grateful not to put on the quarantine 15, as far as that goes. And I'll tell you something that I learned about myself, and probably a lot of other people that are home with kids. Math became a hell of a lot harder to do now than when we were kids. I don't know if people know this, but there's a whole new way of doing math that I learned, and I couldn't be a teacher. Thank God for my wife and the way that she handles the kids and does that on a daily basis. So I couldn't do her job. And so that's what I learned from this whole thing.
Okay. Well said. And, I think a lot of people will also admit that they want to give their teachers a lot more credit, right, than maybe they had
Absolutely.
Previously. The teachers have to take on a lot. And I see what goes on in my house during the day here, and it's tough. I mean, to manage all of that, I really, my hat's off to all of the teachers. In fact, my daughter's teacher stopped by this morning to kind of give her a little surprise before the year ended, which I thought was a nice touch. But anyhow, yes, I mean, we go through these improvements, try to find, again, the silver linings. If we could just touch a little bit more on the business before we break from here, JD, where do you see Kings Capital, given everything that's going on? Where do you see yourself, let's say, through the end of the year, and where do you see yourself maybe 3 or 5 years from now?
So through the end of the year, we're hopeful. We were very busy before this COVID pause. As I mentioned, we did have some essential projects, so we were able to maintain throughout. But now we're seeing things pick back up, and we have some pretty large projects. We just signed on for a 9-story building that's going to be going up in Yonkers. That we're the construction manager on some projects in Brooklyn and the city. And we're also going to be a part of 2 major Westchester projects, hopefully, that are coming soon. It's a little bit too soon to mention those projects yet because some underlying circumstances. But we're hopeful that that's what 2020 is going to look like for us. As far as the next 3 to 5 years for Kings Capital, I'm really moving into a direction of doing more development and co-development with larger developers in the area, building as an equity partner, managing construction and pre-con, and really, we're offering building as a true partner to some of these larger developers. Real estate was always my passion, my background, so that's kind of where Kings Capital is going in the near future.
Well, JD, I don't doubt that you're headed for more great things. You've carved a wonderful path for yourself up to this point, and you're doing so many great things during this time. Again, no surprise there. I want to remind our listeners, you are listening to Westchester Talk Radio, which is produced by Shark Creative. I also want to send a shout out over to our friends at White Plains Hospital and also Hightower Westchester, fiduciary wealth advisors, where transparency, knowledge, and integrity are paramount. Look for their podcast series on demand at teams.hightoweradvisors.com/team/Westchester/media room. Again, I've been with JD Summa, Kings Capital, Isolation Therapy, episode 29. JD, thanks again for spending a little time with me, and I look forward to seeing you out in the, I guess, somewhere around Westchester County soon enough.
On the golf course, hopefully soon. Thank you a lot for having me.
You don't have to twist my arm for that one. All right, we'll be back in touch. Everybody else, we'll talk to you soon.